4 teams, 5 perspectives, 1 division, 1 war room. Welcome to West War Room Rivals, your home for everything AFC West. From breaking news and game day analysis to heated debates, bold predictions, and unforgettable guests. This is West War Room Rivals, where rivals collide.
Welcome into a special edition of West War Room Rivals. Tonight I got Ethan and Austin in here. Cody is in progress of a move, so he will be back with us soon. But tonight it's just us 3, and we have a very special guest. But first, I want to give our sponsorship shout out. So first, let's give a shout out to Troy and his team over at Field Ops Kansas. For all your court and field marking needs, make sure you guys check out Troy and his team. Angie and her team over at Emporia State Federal Credit Union, the War Room's banking of choice. And we are recording live out of the JBW Solutions studio. So big shout out to Jeff and his team with JBW Solutions for being the day one sponsors. Boys, we got a big show tonight. Ethan, I'm going to hand it over to you and let you introduce tonight's very special guest.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So today we got David Droegemeier on the show, which if you don't know the name, he's an absolute legend in Chargers reporting in the podcast space, as he's probably been like the longest to do it along with the lightning round guys. David is an Army veteran, and more importantly, he's been covering the Chargers for 10 years, and I couldn't be more excited to have him on. He's the host of Locked On Chargers, so let's bring him on to the show. Welcome on, David.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to jump on another podcast and talk some football.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
And I do Army veteran. So Matt's one of our co-hosts. He's currently in the Navy and he's currently deployed right now. So we have a very special place here for our veterans on this show. So I want to thank you for your service and everything you've done. Without all that, this wouldn't be possible. So I want to give a shout out to you, David. We appreciate that.
I appreciate that as well, and I appreciate the service of your comrade as well, and I respect each and every single member of the armed forces and anyone who's ever put that uniform on. We're a rare breed. Less than 1% of the U.S. population is served in the United States military, so whoever made that decision to serve their country, my hat is always off to you, and thank you very much for your service.
Yep, well said. I just want to say it out loud myself. Thank you for your service. We definitely love our veterans, not only our co-host, but all of our friends and family and everyone else everywhere. Like he said, none of this is possible without you guys doing what you did or doing what they're doing for us. So very much appreciated. It gives us a chance to sit here and just talk some football, right? Which we love and enjoy. So Ethan, I'll hand it off to you and get the ball rolling.
Of course. Again, I'll reiterate what they said. Thank you so much for your service. Again, we all know people in the armed forces, and it's just fantastic that you were able to support our country and that you were able to defend our country. So,
it's an honor.
I want to start off with, how did your journey into sports media begin when you started? You didn't start with Locked On, and you got there after 6 years, right?
I got that after actually 2 years. So basically what happened is I originally started out writing articles for a local San Diego sports website. It was called San Diego Sports Domination, and they just covered pretty much any and every sport, no matter what level it was, across San Diego. So whatever it was, they were trying to write about it. It was David Frecker. He was the CEO, the founder, who is now a professional photographer. He gave me the opportunity to write articles, and I had expressed to him later on that I had interest in talking about football, maybe doing a podcast for his website. It's just something that, at that time, podcasting was still kind of in its infancy. So it was an untapped market, and I'd always loved sports. I played baseball for many, many years, and I played some football in high school. So, I got hurt like most people, right? It's an age-old story, but I decided to shift my focus to talking about football, talking about sports. And so, I went to him, and he actually had somebody else that had the same kind of interest. And he was like, hey, I'm going to try to put you guys together and see if you guys have any kind of chemistry. Obviously that is my current co-host and my longtime co-host, Daniel Wade. As I was telling you guys before the show, Daniel's brilliant. And it did not take me very long to realize that we had a really good chemistry together. And so we started our own podcast. It was called Chargers Domination Live. We did that on Facebook. Man, it was tough. It was a lot of work. And, for the first maybe 6 months, it was 15, 30, 100, 200 people watching. Like, it wasn't very rewarding at first, but in this game, you got to be tenacious and you have to kind of beat yourself into the consciousness of the people that you want to find, right? You got to find your audience and you have to be diligent and persistent about it. And we were. And so after a while, like, we started to just put our show in as many different groups as possible, share that out, and just try to blast it out to everybody. Try to grab as many ears and eyes as we possibly could. And eventually we started to do decent numbers. And of course, as with all things, guys, the more you do it, the better and more comfortable you're going to get at it. It's just human nature. And so, yeah, we got better at it. And then there became an opportunity with Locked On. One of their hosts, Matthew Stanley at the time, was, moving on. He had some things he had to take care of, some personal things. And, he saw the numbers that we were putting up and was like, hey, I have this opportunity. I have to step down. I have to handle some things. But you guys are doing decent numbers. I'm if you guys want to do it, like, we'll give you the chance and we'll get you hooked up with Locked On. And we're like, we can do what we're doing already and get paid for it? Hell yeah, let's do that. That's awesome, right? And so, that's how it got started. After 2 years, we parlayed that, just hard work and not getting paid, doing anything, just trying to grind into that paying opportunity. And it still took a few years before that became lucrative. Like, it definitely took time to build our brand and find our voice and our rhythm in this business. But I'd say after 4 or 5 years, we started to really, get it down. And we really found something special. And now 10 years later, almost 9 years with Locked On, we're one of the biggest Chargers podcasts in the world.
Yeah, and I think with this channel, we're a year in, and you're right. It is a grind because there is times where you're sitting there like, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing different than some of these other channels? And then you start really getting yourself into a hole, and you got to make sure that, you stay on track, on course in what you're trying to do. So love that you guys have stuck it out. And yeah, I mean, like, as you said, one of the biggest Chargers podcasts out there. And I love seeing your guys' stuff. And that's coming from a, not a Chargers fan perspective of that. But yeah, great work. And we're very honored to have guys like you on this channel.
I mean, hey guys, like, I remember being a smaller show. I do. I remember the grind. I remember how hard it was and how hard it was on your mind to not, be where you want to be, right? You see other shows doing big numbers and you're like, why isn't that me? But the thing is, guys, Rome was not built in a day, and it does take time to be able to find your voice, find your rhythm, and, get that audience that you want. But if you guys keep at it, you will be able to find where you can make this a career, and you can make this something where it's not just passive income, it's real income that's really helping yourself and your families. But you just got to stay positive, have a good mindset, and keep grinding, and you're going to find it.
Yeah, so let's get to the fun part of this. And, I know the joke out there about the Chargers fan, but what made you a Chargers fan, and what keeps you kind of invested in that franchise?
Yeah, well, I'm from San Diego. That was where I was born and raised, and San Diego was home to the Chargers for 56 years. And when I was born, right, there was only Chargers football everywhere, and it was all over San Diego. Obviously, in 1994, that's when they had their Super Bowl year. And so in the 90s, Chargers football, like in the middle, like they were hot, man. Like, and it was really that's the only thing I knew. Like, that my entire family were Chargers fans from the very beginning, since they moved from LA after that 1 year to San Diego and spent the majority of their time in existence in the city of San Diego. You grew up as a Charger fan because there was no other choice. And after, obviously, they left for Los Angeles, that hurt. Like, it was, something where you're ripping the fabric, a piece of the fabric of the city away. That's never going to be, repaired, or it's never going to be replaced. So that was tough. Like, it was really hard on a lot of people, hard on me, hard on my family, because, like, we felt like something that was like a part of who we are was taken from us. But, I couldn't quit them. I couldn't change how I felt because that love was already burned so deep inside me. So, and as far as what keeps me going is, I love this team with all of my heart, man. You think I'd do as many shows as I do if I didn't truly love this team? There's absolutely no way, dude. There's no way on God's green earth I'd be doing 5+ shows a week if I didn't love this, even if I was getting paid. I mean, I don't care. Like, you guys couldn't do what you do if you didn't love the teams that you're representing. So, and especially this year, I truly feel like they have a team that they can do something special. And I'm not just saying that because of how they're built and how they've been built, especially over the course of the last few years in particular. So I've been through it all, guys. I've seen the 2-14 teams. I've seen the 5-11s. I've seen some really, really bad Chargers football. And so the last couple of years under Jim Harbaugh, we've seen a complete culture switch, a culture change. And they had to completely remove that cancer that was the idea of chargering. That idea of I'm going to get so close, but I'm not going to be able to get it done. They had to eradicate that. That's why the first year in particular was all about changing the culture, all about changing that mindset. And Jim Harbaugh has the cachet and the pedigree to be able to do that and the track record to do that, because everywhere he's been, he's won at every single level. So not only did he do it as a coach, he's done it as a player. So he has unique kind of like vocal power. When he says things, like it resonates with players because he can say, hey, I've been there and done it, and I've seen it, and I've achieved it, and you guys can do it too. So a lot of that was changing the culture, and now there's an expectation going into year 3 that they do serious damage.
Yeah, and we live in St. Louis, so your neighbors, the Rams, people in St. Louis still talk down on that day when they had to move out to LA. So yeah, I mean, not only San Diego, St. Louis. I mean, it's ripping teams away from communities, especially good football places too. So yeah, I think resonate that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, David, I feel very similar. I'm also from San Diego. They moved away my freshman year of college, and it's funny. I actually moved to LA after college, so it kind of worked out. But I'm not one of those San Diegans who's like never a Charger. I mean, I kind of get it to a certain extent, but like, I feel fortunate that I'm not one of them.
I agree, and I would be very happy that you're not, because it hurt, man. It sucked, like it really, really did, and it took some real time to get over that.
Yeah, I think it's funny that I get the first question after you say the Chargers are chargering, because I think there's I'd probably get the most votes on the biggest Charger. We'll just call it what it is, hater of the group. I'm very familiar and known with saying Chargers are going to Charger. Although I'm going to continue saying it, but I will, in a moment of realism, I will say I agree with what you said about how their team is built this year. That's as much as you're going to get from me. But now my question is, what's your favorite moment been covering the Chargers?
My favorite moment covering the Chargers is the Mike Williams game, and I'll say it. It's the game where he basically single-handedly beat the Chiefs by himself, where he scored that touchdown, and then they were like, hey, we're not going for the tie, we're going for the win, and they went, and he was absolutely wide open by himself, because that was a big moment for the team. Like in that year, that was a win that they absolutely needed, and of course, that was kind of, towards the beginning of when the Chiefs were, going on their dynasty. So it was a big moment for the Chargers and Chargers fans. And I just remember the elation just across the social media and everywhere, because that was a monster win. Yeah, it might have not been as big of a loss to the Kansas City Chiefs at the time as it was a monumental win for the Chargers. And it really was. And that was probably one of my favorite moments covering the team.
Yeah, I think just from recent memory for me, and I know it was a Chargers loss, but what still sticks in my head is the Tyrod Taylor punctured lung, so Herbert gets to start. Like, Herbert came out and he dominated the Chiefs. I mean, he really did.
Well, you saw it right away, right? Like, as soon as he took them down the field and was able to run it in for that touchdown, it's like, oh my goodness, like this kid's got it. Like he has.
He did everything. I think he threw 400 yards or just under it. He showed his athleticism,
and had no time. He had absolutely no time. He said that I basically had a minute's worth of notice that I was going to go in this game. I did not prepare to be the starter. I didn't get starter reps. Nothing. That was just pure athletic ability on full display.
Yeah, that's when I was like, damn, I think Chargers got another good one. I was like, who punctured Tyrod's lung? I got a lawsuit. All right. No.
It was no, I'm just kidding.
David, the one thing I got to say is I feel like that 2018 Mike Williams game is like if you talk to real Charger fans, like everyone knows where they were watching that game. For me, I was studying abroad in Spain. So I woke up at 2 a.m. and watched it from 2 to 5 because it was Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget celebrating alone in the middle of the night in like this tiny 1-bedroom apartment dorm in the middle of Barcelona. I don't think I've ever been more excited as a Chargers fan. Maybe like besides for like finally like getting over the hump in signing Jim Harbaugh.
That also was a big moment. I have to agree with you. Ethan, there was a point in time where we did 17 straight shows on Jim Harbaugh. Like it was every single day. And every single one of them got like 10 to 15,000 views every single show. And that's how invested Chargers fans were in the pursuit and then ultimately signing Jim Harbaugh because, dude, we're tired of first-time head coaches. Just effing losers, guys. Like guys that have no business being head coaches. And our appetite for that was completely gone. They were like, hey, you guys need a real legitimate head coach, and we will not accept any other option. And that became clear, and the pursuit of it was exciting. And then like just the outpouring of emotion when we felt like now we finally have a coach that's on the level of an Andy Reid, that's on the level of a Sean McVay, and on the level of a Sean Payton, right? You have that advantage. You feel, or like you have that least level playing field now. When before with those other guys, Ethan, you knew going into games that you were at a schematic disadvantage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the entire era, the Mike McCoy to Anthony Lynn to
Milquetoast Mike McCoy. That was my name for Mike McCoy.
It was just every game you'd go in and being like, there's so much worse coach than whoever they were playing. And it didn't matter any of the three of them. Like Anthony Lynn's clock management.
It was horrible.
It was horrendous. Like watching him, and then Brandon Staley's ability to like be so aggressive but not trust his own defense that he's calling plays for is like the most like baffling coaching thing I've ever seen.
Brandon Staley, I don't even ever want to hear that guy's name ever again. Like
it makes me laugh because all of this reminds me of when he had one season in Nathaniel Hackett. Like this is just wrapping all that up for me. Like just remembering his like traumatic experiences, and it's like you guys had to deal like a few head coaches in a row.
And he waited week 1 to show his stupidity of, hey, we're going to milk this all the way down. Brandon McManus go kick the game-winning 64-yard field goal when you waste 48 seconds, and you're like, I know he can kick field goals and long field goals, but you had a timeout and you had 48 seconds left. And you're going to settle for a 64-yard field goal.
Yeah, what are you doing, guy?
On the play clock, like
it was in Seattle too. Like they weren't even kicking Mile High, right?
No, it was in Seattle. Yeah,
so that's a true 64-yarder. That's not a 64-yarder on the moon in Denver, right? Like that's a big difference.
So we can all just sit here and reminisce about the bad times. So let's talk about the good times. Like we're all like, we're where we need to be.
Finally.
So David, I got a question for you. Since you've covered the Chargers for so long, what do you feel like one big misconception of the Chargers is right now? Like to a general fan, what do you feel like they're missing?
Well, I would say the biggest misconception is that Justin Herbert is not a top quarterback in the league. And that to me is something I will go to the absolute grave defending, because if you actually watch him, and you guys in the AFC West, you get to see him twice a year. So you actually should be able to acknowledge how good he truly is and how he is able to fight through injuries, how he's able to shake off defenders, extend plays, have like absolute pinpoint accuracy and the ability to access any point of the football field. And also the thing to me is that I just cannot stand, and it really, really pisses me off because people do not like understand football when they say his playoff record is indicative of who he is as a player. And it's not. It absolutely is not. Context matters. It is important. This is a team game. Wins are not a quarterback stat. They're not. They don't go out there and play the game by themselves. Yes, they get paid the most money. Obviously, we all know that. And ultimately, do wins and losses get put on them, fair or not? Yeah, it does. But context in this sport matters. The Chargers had one of the worst offensive lines in the history of the NFL last year, and a very inconsistent running game, and Justin Herbert dragged that offense with one of the worst offensive coordinators in the league to the playoffs when they had absolutely no business being there. And you take most any other quarterback and put him behind that offensive line, they do not get to the playoffs. But when you get to the playoffs, your biggest issues are put under a giant microscope, and they are magnified, and they are attacked relentlessly. And that's what has happened in each of the last playoff games. They've had absolutely no running game, and they've had a huge weakness on the interior of their offensive line that was exploited absolutely without any hesitation. And they should, right? That's what you do in the playoffs. When it's one and done, you have to go after those vulnerabilities. But to sit here and say Justin Herbert's record in the playoffs is all his fault is just showing that you don't know football.
Well, and you can look at Dan Marino, never won a Super Bowl, right? So, I mean, there's names out there that, had damn good careers, and are we going to blame all of them? Like, some, but not every little detail of it is Dan Marino's fault, right? Like,
right.
So, yeah, you look at it that way. So, I think one thing you were talking about was his ability to extend the plays, especially this last season with the offensive line. Ethan brought it up when we were talking a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh shit, that was that game, Denver last year.
Yeah.
When he was rolling out Nick Bonito right there in his face, right there in his grill, and he just throws an absolute dot.
Not even just that, but Zach Allen had him wrapped up, and he shook him off before that even happened. And then Nick Bonito was in his face, and he had to wrap that throw around his arm and get it in a just one spot where Keenan Allen could get it. It's just, that's the epitome of his talent, and there are very few people on earth that can do that.
Yeah, and again, guys, what we're saying is it's okay to, we get it. Quarterbacks do get just absolutely picked apart. That's just the nature of it. But put the games on, see what we're talking about,
yes.
Which is why you've heard me say continuously on this show, I love Bo Nix, but we're not going there with this. It's not close. And so I just want to be on record to say that I've said Justin Herbert is, yes, still the better quarterback of the two. And
hey, like the thing is you can't take away what Bo Nix was able to do in the playoffs because he performed well, especially against Buffalo. But like, let's not kid ourselves here, right? They had one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. They had an excellent offensive line, one of the better units in the league, probably top 5, right? If we want to be honest. Their interior, their tackles, like they had a very, very good unit, and they were very well coached. So like Bo Nix was in a great situation, and hey, kudos to him, right? Like he was able to get his team there, but he was in a phenomenal situation.
It's always about where you're drafted into, right? Like
no
we
doubt.
Always talk about it, you're only as good as what you get drafted into is what we talked about during draft season.
Yeah.
So let's jump into this outlook. Obviously training camp's here, season's here, finally.
Thank God.
You talked about it earlier on, about this you feel good about the Chargers. So what's the biggest reason for optimism heading into this season?
The like massive difference you're going to see on offense to me is the biggest reason why Charger fans should be ecstatic about where this team is. And also the status quo on defense, because the defense was great last year and it was great the year before. And I think they have a lot of continuity on the coaching staff and they have a lot of continuity on the football field, on the defensive side. So I feel like they should feel pretty good that they're going to be able to maintain a similar level of play. Obviously, Chris O'Leary is a new defensive coordinator, so we'll have to see how he calls plays at the NFL level. But he took one of the worst defenses in the country last year at Western Michigan, one that was ranked, I believe, 105 the year before, to a top 15 defense in the country in one season. Top 10, I believe, in points per game allowed. So, like, he showed at least it worked at that level. Now, obviously, that's the MAC. Right? We're not talking about the NFL. That's a completely different level of competition. I am very well aware of that. But there's a lot of confidence in him from the players, and they're definitely putting him in a big spot. So that means they really believe in him. But on offense, it is going to be a just completely night and day situation. They had one of the worst play callers in the history of the NFL last year. Like, Greg Roman was awful. He was just terrible. And with that offensive line, he showed no ability to be able to help his quarterback schematically. He just was perfectly okay with him continuing to drop back and get murdered. There was no quick passing game. There was no screen game. Justin Herbert had to run and had the second most rushing yards in the NFL last year behind Josh Allen because he had to. He was running for his freaking life. He got hit 129 times, got sacked over 50 times, and faced the highest pressure rate in the NFL by a large margin. And you would figure, hey, if my quarterback's getting killed and his offensive line can't protect him, maybe I should get the ball out of his hands quicker. Maybe I should try to protect him like that. That never happened. It completely just did not happen. And it was a big reason why Justin Herbert broke his hand and had to fight through that. And I think a lot of people forget that too. Not only did he drag that offense and that team to the playoffs, he did it with a broken hand for most of the season. Like the dude's tough as nails, but the offense is going to be massively different. You have Mike McDaniel coming in, who is one of the best rushing offensive coordinators in the league. I believe the Miami Dolphins rushed for over 8,000 yards in the 4 years that he was there. I mean, my quick math tells me that's over 2,000 rushing yards per season. That is ridiculous. That's phenomenal. And Omarion Hampton is fit perfectly for this zone rushing scheme. He not only has the power to be able to break tackles, he has the speed to be able to win the edge. And when you have Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, your two elite tackles coming back, they are instrumental and essential to the success of this offense. But Mike McDaniel is going to protect Justin Herbert schematically. Tua Tagovailoa got sacked 30 times or less in every single season with Mike McDaniel. Justin Herbert has only been sacked less than 30 times, one time in the 6 seasons he's been in the NFL. That right there goes to show you Mike McDaniel knows how to protect his quarterback. His quick passing game, that rhythm passing game, is going to get the ball out of his hands quicker, and I believe the Chargers have the weapons to be able to take advantage of that from a yak perspective, because that's what it's all about. It's getting the ball out quick, getting it at the end of the hands of your playmakers like Aronde Gadsden II, like David Njoku, like Quentin Johnston, like Lad McConkey, a guy who's a very, very precise route runner, and letting them work after the catch. Also, Keaton Mitchell, a very dangerous second running back. They have a lot of firepower, and they're going to go from a middle of the pack towards the back end of the league offense to a top 5 offense in the league this year, because they're going to be able to do it however they need to, in the air or on the ground.
David, how you feeling about all the Brendan Thompson hype right now?
It's exciting, man. It is very exciting. And he's just showing he's for real. And he's showing he's not just a one-trick pony. But obviously we have to pump the brakes a little bit, because the game of football is played with pads on, right? And he's 165 pounds, maybe 160 if I'm, being honest. But he showed it that he can do it in college with much worse quarterback play. But what we've seen so far is he's going to stress defenses out, and he's going to be a presence that you have to pay attention to and you have to account for, because we're talking 4.26 speed with a guy who can really track the ball over his shoulder. Yeah, he's a little bit smaller, but if you don't get your hands on him, you're not going to catch him. And if you don't, he's going to, he's with a quarterback now that actually can hit him in stride 65, 70 yards down the football field. And I would not be surprised if we see several of those type plays this year, but also some comeback routes and some shorter routes that he is able to collect, stop, start, and go and get massive yak after in those positions as well. But when you have that kind of world-class speed, it is something that defenses have to account for and pay attention to and allocate resources to. And that obviously will open up things for other people on the football field, like your tight ends over the middle and some of your receivers underneath. So it just adds an element to this offense that has not been there in a very long time.
Yeah, and I think speaking of him, and I don't know if he's the answer or not, but which player do you believe is set to truly have a breakout year, offense or defense?
Yeah, Brendan Thompson's a good option, but he is not my number one option. The number one option is Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton's going to go to the absolute moon this year. If he's able to stay healthy, getting a massive improvement at center with Tyler Biadasz taking over for Bradley Bozeman, who was, I believe, ranked 38 out of 40. And just, if my memory serves, there's only about, 32 teams in the NFL. That's really, really bad, okay? We're talking historically bad. So we're going from somebody who's worse than, some of the backup centers in the league to going to one that's top 10 or top 11 in the league in Tyler Biadasz. So a massive improvement there, and getting both your tackles back. I mean, they lost Rashawn Slater before the season even started, and Joe Alt played only a couple of games before he also went out for the majority of the season. So getting both these guys back, which I'm happy to report both of them are on the field and participating in training camp. Looks like they passed their physicals and they are full go, which is music to my ears. and should be to every single Chargers fan out there, because if Justin Herbert has time, he can dice up anybody. But it's not just the passing game, it's the running game that is so improved when you have those guys that can really run, that can really take people out at the second level. These guys are tremendous run blockers just as well as they are pass protectors, and Omarion Hampton is going to go crazy. I would not be surprised if we see 13 to 1,500 rushing yards and probably another 300 to 500 receiving yards out of Omarion Hampton if he's able to stay healthy this year.
Yeah, your memory and quick math so far tonight has been on display and impressive.
Yes.
No mess up so far.
I picked Keaton Mitchell not too long, right when the Chargers signed him, and we obviously knew that Mike McDaniel was the OC at that time, just for the simple fact of the screen game that McDaniels is going to be able to implement. We saw what he was able to do with Achane. If Keaton Mitchell can stay healthy, we know the explosiveness, the speed, the ability to catch and just burn. So I like the Keaton Mitchell signing for the Chargers. It's something that I know, and I don't know how your thoughts are on Kamani Vidal, but he was serviceable last year, but I'm not sure if he's absolutely like that answer, or what your thoughts are on maybe the split between Mitchell and Vidal would be.
Yeah, to me, I'm with you. Keaton Mitchell is explosive, man. I mean, I have some of his next-gen stats numbers were ridiculous. I think he was one of the fastest players, like crossing the line of scrimmage, like getting up to speed, and also routinely one of the fastest runners, just getting up to like 22, 23 miles an hour in the NFL. The dude's ridiculous, and I think he had multiple like 10 plus yard runs, or multiple like 40 plus yard runs, and he only had like 59 carries. He definitely has the ability to take it the distance. And one of the reasons why, Brendan Thompson, Mike McDaniel actually had Keaton Mitchell on a wanted poster and was like, "Hey, I need you guys to go get this guy. I need him. Go get him. You got to make it happen." And they, very clearly they made it happen like exceptionally quickly. I think he was released in like maybe 30 minutes later, the Chargers signed him. So he is awesome. I think Kamani Vidal to me is a perfect like third running back. Like if you need him to come in and spell, and if your starter's hurt for a couple of games, he showed you, he can give you a couple of 100-yard games here and there, but it was hot and cold. It was either I'm going to give you 90 to 100, or I'm going to get 30 or 40 or less. And so the consistency wasn't there, and he's not really built to be like an every down back. Like you look at Omarion Hampton, the dude's got tree trunk legs. He is built like an Adonis. Like he definitely has that build to be able to withstand the rigors of an NFL season. So that's, the type of body type they want. And to me, Keaton Mitchell's a perfect complement to Omarion Hampton. It's kind of a thunder and lightning type of situation, in my opinion. I still think it's probably going to be like a 70-20-10 type split. It's probably going to be majority Omarion. They're going to definitely give Keaton Mitchell some opportunities, especially in the passing game. And I'm glad you brought that up, because in training camp, he actually had a nice wheel route where he burned a corner and caught a long pass down the left sideline. And just showing his receiving ability. And so that's just be another element, another way to keep Justin Herbert protected, is getting the ball out to a running back, and getting one too as an electric a player as Keaton Mitchell is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think just to prove your point, he's in his career, again, he's missed time, but in his career, he's played in over a season's worth. So I feel like this stat is at least okay, but he's averaged 6.3 yards per carry, which is elite. Now, again, he does miss time each season, but he's played over 21 games. That's over a full season. So to still average 6.3 yards a carry is, you really can't put it into words. He has in his career been limited as a receiver, so I am curious to truly see him in that role. I think it has it there, but again, the Ravens, I don't ever understand the Ravens and their play calling and player usage anyway. So, him with McDaniel could be this. Honestly, him and McDaniel could be the scariest part of this offense, just because he won't be overused, and I think McDaniel will know when to use him, where to use him, and the right time in the game. If you need a spark, if you need a big play, you're not going to see 40% of the plays go his way, but they're going to be timely and they're going to be needed. So I think all around it, like Corey said, it's a perfect marriage for the Chargers.
No question about it. It really is. It's just a nice compliment to what Amarion's going to bring to the table, and just a guy that has game-breaking speed, a guy that is like Brendan Thompson, but in the running back type profile. He can really do damage, and it's going to be fun to see how they utilize him and kind of how they sneak him in to the offense, because Mike McDaniel, one of the things he does so well is use motion to really get people in advantageous like situations, whether it's, a running back on the slow-footed linebacker or, something like that. He finds those matchups and he really exploits them very, very well.
All right, David, we've been talking a lot of positives. I feel like we got to get to the things that could break the Chargers season a little bit.
Let's do it.
What's your biggest concern? Because I have my own, but I'm curious what yours are.
My biggest concern is that they did not address the interior of the offensive line to my liking. I feel like they still have $40+ million in cap space, and they elected to go with Cole Strange, who was cut by the Patriots and signed by the Dolphins very late. And, if you look at the PFF data, it's not very good. But, he wasn't terrible from like a pass protection standpoint. And I'm just hopeful that he's, given a full off season, that he's able, to, with, another year removed from a serious injury, that he's able to, stay healthy and, perform better another year with a full off season under his belt. But left guard right now is a competition, and you don't know who's playing there. And to me, that's the biggest concern, because it has been the biggest concern the last 3 seasons. The interior of the offensive line has not been able to show the ability to pick up stunts and twists, and that is something that every single team out there knew. Now, Tyler Biadasz is going to help with that tremendously. And getting both your tackles back is definitely going to be a huge boost. But that's still a weakness on the offensive line. Both these guard spots are a weakness. Now, with that being said, I've talked to Kyle Krabs of Locked On Dolphins, and he basically told me verbatim, because I asked him, I was like, because we were getting later into the offseason, I was like, why haven't the Chargers been more aggressive getting some of these guards that are out there? It's not a money issue. Like, they had plenty of money. They can go sign the top guards on the market if they wanted to and still have plenty of money left over. But Kyle Krabs told me, he said Mike McDaniel thinks that he can scheme around the guard play. He said they are just not very important to his offense. The tackles are very important to the offense. And fortunately for the Chargers, they have 2 of the elite tackles in the game. But to me, in my opinion, it's like, if you have the ability to go give the $250+ million quarterback the best offensive line money can buy, why the hell wouldn't you just do that? Instead of having to try to scheme around it, why not make every single member of that offensive line as strong as you possibly can and see what that looks like, instead of trying to roll the dice on some guys that are much lower level and also, a competition going into training camp. It's just, to me, it could have been addressed better, and I just hope it doesn't come back to bite the Chargers for a 3rd or 4th straight time.
Do you think that puts more pressure on the tackles?
Yeah, it does for sure. But I think with those guys, their only challenge is to stay on the field. Like, their ability is unquestioned to me. I feel like Rashawn Slater's technical acumen, when he's on the field, he's an all-pro tackle. He's one of the best tackles in the league. He just really is a technical monster. And Joe Alt is a freak of nature. I mean, a guy that's 6'8", 325 pounds, that plays with unbelievable leverage, has just crazy strength, has a really good mobility, to be able to climb to the second level and attack in the rushing game. Like, these 2 guys, the only thing to me that they're battling is their own bodies. If they're on the field, they're going to be massive difference makers in this offense.
Who do you think wins the left guard spot?
I mean, I think they want it to be Jake Slaughter, but they're not giving him a lot of the opportunities, at least early on in training camp, to, show his ability with the starters. He's been getting rotated in, here and there, and, mostly with the second team playing center. So I would like to see that change. But right now, the leader in the clubhouse seems to be Coyote Awashika, who has been, kind of a backup guard for the majority of his career. And no, to me, guys, like nothing can be decided until they put the pads on. Like football is played with pads. So to me, like this question can't really be answered until they actually go put pads on and go play against, go try to do what their job is to block people that's coming at them, trying to, tear a quarterback's head off. So to me, I want to see all of these guys play in the preseason because they have to. And I want to see them, go out there and show that they're a man among boys, that they just, have earned this position. I don't want to see any handouts. I want the absolute best 5 offensive linemen out there protecting my quarterback. So that's a position that has to be decided when the pads come on. So I would say Coyote is the leader in that clubhouse, but Jake Slaughter's in it. Trevor Penning is in it as well. I would say even Logan Taylor would have an opportunity. But right now, it's too early to call that one.
I got to ask because it's a criticism that a lot of people make of Jim Harbaugh, and I'm curious if you agree. He says competitors welcome all the time, but with the offensive line, it doesn't really feel like it's a competitors welcome thing, and they always go into it with who they know is going to win the job. Like, it was kind of fake with Bradley Bozeman and Zion Johnson last year. It was fake the year before with Trey Pipkins kind of winning the right guard spot. Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you feel like there's still true competition in the offensive line room?
I think, honestly, like human nature will tell us that we all have favorites. I mean, just inherently, I don't think anyone can be truly objective. I think it's a mantra that you definitely want out there and you want your team to believe, right? And you want that message to be put outwards for people to hear and for people to see. But I just think just from an honestly like personal level, you can't help but have inherent biases. So I think that plays a factor in it. But hopefully this year with Mike McDaniel coming in to the fold with a new offensive line coach also. I mean, hey, what Jim Harbaugh said is that Mike McDaniel is the head coach of the offense. So if that is a true statement, then that means he is making the decisions on the offensive side, on who stays, on who goes, and it's not in Jim Harbaugh's hands. Jim Harbaugh is a CEO-type head coach. He does not have an offensive affiliation, nor a defensive affiliation, or a special teams affiliation. He is an overseer, a leader of men. That's the type of coach that he is. So if we are to take him at his word, then hopefully it's Mike McDaniel making those decisions, and we'll see what decisions he ultimately makes.
Yeah, and I'm going to reword this question here because I think we know the answer if I ask it the way it is. But so I want to know, and we know that the ceiling's obviously there for the Chargers. Would it be a Super Bowl or bust type season, or how are you looking at this?
I mean, to me, every single year, the goal is to win a championship. And so if you're not winning a championship, then you're not fulfilling the expectations, especially for the Chargers going into year 3. I think if I'm saying bare minimum, it's multiple playoff wins. It's not just one. Like in year 3, the expectation is no longer to get to the playoffs. That's an expectation. Like that's where I expect them to get there. And with this team, the way it's built, in year 3, I believe that this team has what it takes to win in the playoffs, but they have to show it. And it definitely is a situation where if they don't win at least 1 or 2, I would say 2, honestly. 1's just not enough for me. I need that. I need to see 2 for me to consider it somewhat of a success. But at the end of the day, it's all about winning a ring. And the Chargers are the only team in this division that has not won a championship, and one of the few teams in the league that has never won a championship. And as we all know, the Super Bowl is in LA this year. So they have an opportunity to go and play in the Super Bowl in their home stadium. So there absolutely is motivation to do that. Not saying it's going to be easy. Not saying that there aren't true challenges out there in a very difficult schedule. But you can't be afraid of that. If you expect to be one of the better teams in the league, then you need to expect to beat the other better teams in the league. Because if not, then you don't deserve to be among those teams. So the expectation is multiple playoff wins. And if they don't get that, then it's a failure.
Well, I get that a lot where people are like, and well, I'll use my own team just so I don't throw shade at anybody, but, have people like, hey, nobody's scared of the Chiefs. And I'm like, we got to be honest. None of these teams are scared of anybody. Like,
right.
They're all here. They're all the best. That's fan talk. Like,
right.
Even the Raiders aren't scared to play the Chiefs, the Broncos, these guys aren't scared of each other. like the Cardinals linebacker who came out and said like, hey, we expect to win the division. And he caught flack for it, right? But like, that's the mindset you're supposed to have. That's
Absolutely.
the mindset every player in the league has.
Yeah.
Now, we know the likelihood of the Cardinals winning the division is 0.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of them
Yeah.
winning more than 5 games is pretty low. So,
But it's like, but like you said, like the Chargers are at a point now where they're going into every game expecting to win.
yes.
It's going to be a tough schedule. If there's even one person in that locker room who is scared or doesn't think they'll win every game,
Then they don't need to be there.
Exactly. That's what I think you were talking about, like year one culture change.
Yeah.
Chargers are no longer going to Charger. So you were spot on with that. And I actually had a comment today where it's like, nobody's been scared of the Chiefs since Tyreek Hill left. And I'm like, nobody was scared of the Chiefs when Tyreek Hill was there, not from an actual player standpoint. Was it more difficult? Yes. But these players aren't scared of other teams. Like, that's not how they made it to this level.
That's right. Yeah, it's a mindset, and you're absolutely right about that. You can't be scared. I mean, this is a violent, physical game, and you know the one of the things I've heard a lot of players say is, I get to physically assault somebody for 3 hours and get away with it, and not have to worry about going to jail. So you have to kind of have that mentality, right? You know, you're going up against the biggest, strongest, fastest, smartest athletes on the face of the earth. So you can't have a scared mentality, because if you do, you're probably going to get hurt. And
you've already lost.
You're already lost.
If that's your mentality.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's right.
Spot on. Oh, I guess I have the next one, don't I? I kind of threw this one in here for me because I'm curious, because I know everyone views this a little differently. But do you think the Chargers have kind of closed the gap on the Broncos, or do you still think like this is the Broncos division until I'm going to say the Chargers, but anybody takes it from them?
Yeah, I don't know if we can say that is the Broncos division, because it's the first time they won the division in many, many years, right? It's the Chiefs that won it for basically 10 straight seasons. So, I mean, one, division crown, that's not, you owning the division. Like you got it done. And another reason why I say that, just with all honesty, the luck that the Broncos had in 1-score games was insane last year. And
like the
that
Chiefs 2 years ago
has to regress to the mean. Like it just has to. It's just very, very unrealistic to believe that is going to happen again. Now, from a schematic standpoint, do I feel like the Chargers are on par with the Broncos? I do. I do believe that they are a team that is on the same level as the Broncos in the division. And these are the two teams in my mind that are going to be battling it out for the division crown. I do feel like they are in position to go win it. And I like what they did with Jalen Waddle. I still have my questions about Bo Nix and his viability, because of, the kind of inability to throw it accurately over the middle and kind of into the intermediate and deep parts of the field. A lot of his throws are between 0 and 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And when he starts branching out to throws that are past that, he starts to become quite a bit more inaccurate. So I do have my concerns about that. Hopefully he's coming back healthy from the ankle. But they do have a very good team around them. And if the Chargers are able to stay healthy and have their offensive line, then they have one that's a lot closer to the offensive line that the Broncos had. I'm not going to say it's at the same level, but it's a lot closer to where they were last year. And if they have that, and they were already competing at a very high level against the Broncos, then I do feel like they're going to be a team to beat this year.
Yeah, and I'll give you the Broncos' perspective of this. I don't really think there was a gap, to be 100% honest with you, just for the fact that I think they're evenly matched in so many categories. I mean, we obviously know we've done the positional breakdowns of all the West, and obviously it's been mostly the Chargers and Broncos with a lot of these things. But yeah, and I'm with you. I think this is going to come down to that, last game against the Chargers. I think just like similar to last year, I think with these teams, they're built very similar. Coaching styles, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh. Yeah. I mean, Denver was trying to get Jim Harbaugh when they got Sean Payton. So, I mean,
and Sean Payton was trying to get Justin Herbert. He definitely wanted to come coach the Chargers.
So similar coaches. So it's just one of those things where I think as Broncos and Chargers fans, we should be very excited for this season, because this is what we want. We don't want we went through the downtimes, the shitty coaching. We were talking beforehand about the shitty coaching that our teams have had. So yeah, just from my perspective, I didn't really think there was too much of a gap, because I thought they were so neck and neck in a lot of things.
It's going to be fun, right? It's going to be fun to go up against the Broncos, and they're a very, very good football team. They obviously were on the doorstep of making it to the Super Bowl last year. So like they're going to be a team that the Chargers have to go through, right? If they want to win the division for the first time since 2009, then they have to go through the Broncos to be able to get that done. And every time the Chargers and Broncos they strap up and they go play, it's always appointment television.
Which AFC rivalry are you most looking forward to on the back of that?
I mean, the easy answer is always the AFC West guys. I always want to beat the Chiefs. I always want to beat the Raiders. I always want to beat the Broncos. But outside of that, that's the easy answer. It's two other teams in particular. It's the stupid frickin' Patriots, which I hate with an undying passion. I cannot stand them. The Chargers have lost some of the biggest games in their franchise history against the New England Patriots, and they have dominated the Chargers. I believe they have a 2-8 to 2 lead in the last decade over the Chargers. They have dominated them. It has been horrendous. And then another one is the Houston Texans. I want my get back for both of those games. Not only the playoff game where I was in attendance, which was freaking awful to watch. And then of course last year where they got those two kind of deep pass touchdowns. And then other than that was dominated, on both sides of the ball. But the Chargers couldn't, get enough done to win that game. So those two opponents right there, I want my retribution for sure this season.
David, I gotta one up you a little bit. I was in Jacksonville for the 2022 playoff game.
Yeah, yikes! That hurts.
Yeah.
That's tough, my friend. At least with the Houston Texans game, it didn't take us long to realize that it was over. They weren't going to win that one, but the Jacksonville Jaguars game should have never happened. They get 2 first downs in the second half. They win the game. It's really as simple as that. They take a possession or 2 away from the Jacksonville Jaguars in the second half. They win that game, and then we're talking about Justin Herbert in a completely different light than we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we literally just talked about that on our last episode or an episode before about all it's going to take for Justin Herbert to win one playoff game and then get you a second playoff game in the same. Then the whole conversation is going to change. And I took some heat about it because all of a sudden no, let's be realistic here. That's what we're trying to do. If he wins 1 or 2 playoff games, the conversation absolutely changes. Get to a Super Bowl before Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all these other guys, then the conversation really goes. And I think
absolutely.
And to be 100% honest with you, not a Chargers, but I think that scares people because they're going to have to admit this whole time that, well, now what's your argument going to be at this point?
Exactly. Well, they always, the goalposts always move, right? You win one playoff game. It's like, okay, I need you to go win another one. Okay. Well, now you've been in the league 7-8 years. Now it's time for you to go win a championship. Why haven't you done that? Now, the ultimate way to shut everybody up is to go win a championship. You go get that Lombardi trophy. There is nothing anybody can say to you or about you ever again other than to call you a world champion. That is the end all be all of the conversation completely. If he does that, if Jim Harbaugh gets that for him, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And for Justin Herbert, all of the discourse, it all ends.
It does. So you've answered this one already. So we haven't had a Raiders question here, and I want to get some Raiders in here. Cody's obviously our Raiders. Cody's our Raider rep. He's obviously not here tonight, but kind of give us your thoughts on the Raiders. They've had a huge offseason. Obviously, we know you can be the offseason warriors, and it's not going to pan out. And we've told Raider fans to kind of relax a little bit. It's on the right track. So give us your initial thoughts on the Raiders and kind of what you're thinking about the Chargers-Raiders matchup.
Yeah, the Raiders have gotten better for sure. They spent a lot of money. They added a really, really good center that they way overpaid to get there. $27 million a season is ridiculous. Kudos to his agent. My goodness, that is crazy. I'm sorry, there's not a $16 million difference between Tyler Biadasz and Tyler Linderbaum. There's just not. That is a massive overpay. But bad teams have to overpay to get good players to go there. That's just the facts. That's what it is. Like, and the thing is with the Raiders, like, yeah, they added some pieces on defense. I still have a lot of questions about their pass rush. And Max Crosby doesn't scare me at all. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater have locked him up every single time they've played against him. So he really does not scare me. And until they get somebody on the other side that can actually, provide some real pass rush, then I'm not really worried about that. Like, Max Crosby's a good player. He's still a very good run defender, and he's going to, be able to affect the game somehow, but he needs more help. And then to me, it's the biggest issue is still need more help on the offensive line, still more work to do there. And there's not enough weapons. There just isn't. I mean, yeah, there's Brock Bowers, and Ashton Genty was not very impressive to me last year. Yeah, they had a really bad offensive line, and that definitely plays a factor in it, but he got, the amount of runs where he had 0 or 1 yards was insane. Like, it really, really was. So I need to see a big jump from him in year 2, but they need more pass rush and they need more weapons before they're going to be in the conversation. To me, it's a team that I expect the Chargers to sweep again this year. They're just not ready. They're moving in the right direction, but they still, I would say, have probably 2 or 3 more off seasons before they can really be considered a team that is going to be in contention.
Saying everything you said about Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah, there's not even a $10 million difference between Linderbaum and Creed. Like,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. Creed Humphrey's phenomenal. Like that.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to understand football really when you watch him. The guy's dominant. Like, he's one of the best centers in the league, period. Like, we've seen it with Corey Linsley. When the Chargers had Corey Linsley, it's a massive difference maker when you have a real true commander in the middle of your offensive line. It is a force multiplier for sure. But Creed Humphrey and Tyler Linderbaum, I would still probably take Creed Humphrey over Tyler Linderbaum. And, it's just the facts of the NFL, right? Every year, the dollar amounts go up and the market value always changes year over year.
And we see, the market, get reset when people like Linderbaum hit the market. But I think the amount that it got reset is what surprised me. Like, I do know the Raiders have to overpay, but even I wasn't expecting like that much. But like you said, like, when you're bad, you're going to have to keep going. And I think, like you said, kudos to the agent. Like, he got it there. So, like, we're not hating anybody for getting the bag, even if it is.
Oh, no. I mean, hey, it's a business, right? The NFL is a business.
Yeah.
Get your money, and the shelf life of an average NFL player is like 3 years. So your viability, like your prime earning time, is very, very short. So you're not going to ever hear me lament any player out there for getting their money, because their earning potential in this league is very limited.
Yep. No, and kudos to that. I think we had a couple. Oh, we have a whole lightning round, don't we?
Well, I think instead of the lightning round here, we're going to go ahead and answer some questions real quick as we wrap up.
Let's do
here
it
tonight. Ethan, do you want to pull the questions up, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I got to start with this one. So this is
There
my
you go.
dad. So just so you know, David, my dad listens to your show every single day as he's going to work. And so he was very excited to listen. So he's actually been commenting the whole time. But he would kill me if I didn't actually ask you a question. So his is, what was your favorite Chargers game from last year? His was the Eagles game. We were there in person. So what was yours favorite from last game?
I mean, that Eagles game is a really, really good game and a great choice. It's definitely one I could use, but for the sake of difference, I'll use a different game. That game was crazy. I mean, Justin Herbert faced over a 60% pressure rate, and I think that was the week after he broke his hand and was still out there stiff-arming guys, running with a football, just unreal. And obviously, the walk-off interception to seal it was just an amazing play. But to me, it's that second Kansas City Chiefs game in the cold in Kansas City, where you had Tony Jefferson and Derwin James just absolutely laying guys out. I mean, just really enforcing.
They were murdering.
Yes.
Just call it what it was.
They absolutely were. And that was the tone that they had to. Like, that's the tone they had to bring against an opponent who has been one of the better teams in the NFL over the last 5 to 6 years, and really in a true dynasty. So to come in with that style of play, with that football, with that violence, and just saying, hey, we don't care if it's cold, we don't care who you guys are, we're not intimidated, we're going to be the ones that's going to set the tone. And to me, that was probably one of my favorite games. It wasn't a big high scoring game, but it was a knockdown, drag out fight.
Now, my years are getting mixed up the older I get. But last year, game 1 was the
Brazil
international
game.
It was the Brazil
Yeah.
See,
game.
I think that was the changing of the guard for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because before that, going into that, I said I hadn't seen that it factor from Herbert. Like, I hadn't seen him just do
Fair.
it,
Yeah.
especially when it mattered. And the moment Chris Jones took that inside path, Herbert went. And he even slid, did that little celebration. And, like, I saw that and I knew, like, okay, he's turned the page to something. And to me, that's what sticks in my mind from last year with the Chargers was like,
It's a great call out. Yeah, it's a great call out for sure. And I agree with you. It definitely is a big moment because the Chiefs were the dragon, right? You know, they were the kings of the castle, right? And so that was the team that you had to get through to really if you want to get where you want to go in this division and you know, in the conference, that's a team you had to get past. And so Justin Herbert doing that in the big moment in prime time definitely was a huge turning page and turning point in his career for sure.
All right, our next question is, what's your favorite Justin Herbert play so far in his career? So our commenter says, mine is the touchdown pass to Keenan Allen against the Broncos. Another honorable mention is the huge bomb to Jalen Guyton against the Giants.
Man, that's tough, man. He's made a lot of really good plays in his career. I would say, man, the recency bias probably is the play against the Broncos. It just had every element of what he is capable of doing. I mean,
he is a Broncos fan.
Pressure in his face immediately, having to shake off a monster defensive tackle who was one of the better pass rushing defensive tackles in the league in Zach Allen, and then basically readjusting with the ball in his hand, having to bend to throw around and attacking Nick Benito, and then finding a Chargers legend in the end zone for a massive touchdown in a crucial, critical point in the game. It just had all of the elements that you look for in a superstar type quarterback. And so that to me is probably one of the best plays of his career.
Can I add one on?
Go ahead.
To me, and this is what I'll always say to Justin Herbert questions, is an entire drive. And it's against the Raiders in 2021.
Oh, man, he was crazy.
6 4th and 10s. And at the last second, he completed that dot to Josh Palmer to tie the game.
Yeah, that was nasty work.
I mean, Brandon Staley messed it up because he should have went for 2 after that. But
of all times, you go for 2 all season long. And then the moment where you had all the momentum, you don't go for 2? What were you thinking? It's insane to me.
Yeah.
I think we asked something Wednesday night, I think, and it's one that I've had in my, and I want to ask you, but I think I mentioned it somewhere, and then Ethan actually asked us, but what would you do if you actually had like 11 Derwin Jameses on the field?
I would be really excited, man, because Derwin James is a freaking monster. Like, to me, like, he is probably one of the best defensive players in the league, regardless of position, because he can affect the game in so many different ways. Like, Myles Garrett is a freak of nature, an absolute monster, one of the best pass rushers in the history of the National Football League. But not only can Derwin James go play deep and go play on the football, he can cover your number 1 receivers. He can cover your tight ends. He can blow up running backs, and he can blow up your offensive tackles. He can run through them. Like, his ability to make plays at the line of scrimmage in the running game, get tackles for loss. He's just a jack of all trades, master of all. Not jack of all trades, master of none. Jack of all trades, master of all. One of the special defensive players in the history of the National Football League. I really don't feel like that's underselling it. He just affects the game in so many different ways, and I'm so happy that early on in his career, after some serious injuries, that he was able to come back, find his health again, and also get away from Brandon Staley, because he really just cheapened one of the best defensive players in the league and really limited him by trying to make him do too much. And then you get Jesse Minter and he's like, hey, I'm going to put you on the line of scrimmage. I'm going to let you go sniff out the football. I'm going to let you go affect the game and do what you do best. And what do you know? Back-to-back second team all-pro selections. And that's who he is. That's who Derwin James is. And that's the reason why he got that monster extension and why nobody's questioning it.
Yeah, I have to quit liking players out of college because they always end up in my division. Like, I loved Pat Surtain, and of course had to go to Denver.
I mean, Pat Surtain's a monster, man. Like, there's a lot to like there.
I love Joe Alt because I love trench play, and then he ends up at the Chargers. So I'm like, I'm done.
This is terrible. Yeah, no, hey, believe me, it's not the only thing. You're not the only one that does that. I mean, when in the off season before the draft, we watched tons and tons of film. So we've reviewed a lot of guys, a lot of players, a lot of guys I've seen. Like, for example, Brock Bowers. Like, when he came out, I wanted Brock Bowers like desperately on my football team. He was a monster. You saw it easily in college. You knew this was going to be a slam dunk. This guy is going to translate, no question about it. And what do you know? He set one of the all-time rookie tight end record and shattered it, and was an absolute monster. And he is one of the best tight ends in the league. Go figure. He's playing with the frickin' Raiders.
Just waste away, my friend. Waste away.
All right. We got one last thing for you, David. It'll come from my dad, which is his favorite player, and we argue about this all the time, which is, do you think they bring back the legend Keenan Allen?
All right, well, let me just preface this by saying I love Keenan, and I truly do. He is a legend and one of the best Chargers receivers of all time. But when you look at this offense and the way it's built and what it relies on, which is yards after catch, that's just not something that Keenan is able to bring at this stage of his career. He is a route technician to the highest order. He truly understands how to work over defenders, find that just exact space he needs to get to convert a third down, and he did it better than anyone in the NFL again last year. But he just is not a guy that's going to give you yards after catch. He just can't do that at this point. He never was really good at it at any point in his career, but he's really not good at it at this point in his career. And you have receivers that can do it with Ladd and with Quentin Johnston, who has not been used nearly as much in those yards after catch situations as he should have been, because that's what got him to be a first round pick, is what he did with the ball in his hands when, he was able to create. That's what he does best. That's how he's utilized the most effectively. And for Keenan, he can't do that. So he's just not a scheme fit in this Mike McDaniel offense. And for those reasons, I have to reluctantly say that I do not believe, barring any injuries, that Keenan Allen will be back with the Chargers.
I agree.
Perfect. David, go ahead and tell everyone watching here tonight how they can find you on the socials.
Absolutely. You can check me out on Twitter. That's where I'm most active, at DroTalkSD. I'm also on TikTok occasionally. I do the occasional live. If you want to find me, I'm a little more open, I would say, on my lives. I can be a little bit less buttoned up. When I'm on Locked On, I have to be professional, and I have to make sure that I'm being very careful and understanding the audience that I have. So when I'm on TikTok, I'm a little more loose, so it's a little more fun. But you can find the show at Locked On Chargers, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. At Locked On LAC on Twitter, and Locked On Chargers on Facebook and on Instagram. And we do 5 shows a week, all year round, on the Chargers. So if you love the Chargers, or if you love any team, you love the Broncos, you love the Chiefs, we have a Locked On podcast for your favorite team. The slogan is your team every day, and we are constantly cranking out content for your consumption.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you again for taking time out of your Friday evening to come back, and hopefully we'll get you back on here throughout the season to talk Chargers. Hopefully it's a good season for everybody, good, healthy season for you guys out there. So before we get signed off here, guys, thank you again to JBW Solutions, as we're recording live out of the JBW Solutions studio. Again, thank you to Emporia State Federal Credit Union, the War Room's banking of choice, Troy and his team over at Field Ops Kansas. For all your court and field marking needs, make sure to give Troy and his team a call. I will be debuting our orange and blue debrief tomorrow night on YouTube. I will also be on Mile High Monsters with Mike tomorrow at 2, so make sure you guys tune in for that. If you're new in here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in tonight, and we will see you guys back next week. So until next time, thank you for joining.